Welcome back to Blackbelt Fresh. In this video I'm going to share a garden hack with you that has saved me money, time, and been the best solution to my fabric staples dilemma. Here's an overview shot of the staples I have on hand, and I'll just discuss, hopefully in a brief manner, what and why I've gotten to this solution. Now in 2016, I made an initial purchase of these 106-inch pins off of Amazon and discovered quickly that they were too large for my application. They're too long for prairie soil. These would be best in a sandier soil, but for me their best purpose is to hold down a hose or something, a drip tape header, just oddball stuff actually. So I have these floating around and I try to avoid them when I put my hand on them. And the second one are these smaller ones with a square head that are about the same gauge as the long ones, but shorter obviously, and they're the right length top to the bottom, but they're also that heavier gauge. And the ends, as they rust, will become blunt, and it's more difficult to penetrate your fabric with them. It's just a little too much gauge than needed. And so my solution has been to make my own. And the number one thing that I have bought consistently at a local Selma hardware store is 16-inch insulation support wires, which come in a straight length of 100 per carton. And you can already see, hey, yeah, that makes sense. Cut them in half and make them yourself. And so I set up this little jig spot on this old picnic table, screwed down this block of wood and notched it and marked a halfway point on the table. And so coming to this spot as needed is my repeat process for making more staples. This market garden has 7 separate gardens, and in the preceding seasons they were built ongoing as a part of the entire building process, or getting started process rather, was took place in the go. So I didn't build everything and then start. I was always trying to gain ground. And so now I'm kind of at a holding place with these 7 gardens. But I make refinements, and there are times that when I use my fabric staples to hold down chicken wire at the base for perimeter fencing, and that consumes them, and that's why they disappear. They don't fail. I've never had any fail and get lost or anything, but I use them for holding down fencing bases, and that's why I tend to need more. I have a pretty common system for keeping up with my gear in the field, and that is to go ahead and buy a good Tractor Supply is the place I got this bucket, which is an indestructible food grade heavy duty BPA free with a real good thick handle on it. And this is my field bucket, and in this field bucket you'll find the fabric staples I make, the medium-sized Office Depot clips. I can make a 10-minute video showing you all the things these do everywhere, from hold the shower curtain closed, to hold the fabric at the end of the row wire, to hold up that netting right there, to hang from that and hold tools, to clip on my sun visor to hold the mail. Medium-sized Office Depot clips are holding my life up. Not my pants, but my life up. A broken Fiskars, small, what do you call this, clipper, that I used to pre-make a hole for the wires if the ground is too hard. And the cheap Walmart $2.99 serrated camping knife, which will fall apart on you if you don't keep that screw good and tight. Maybe put some glue in it. I duct tape them from time to time, and these are for carving out weeds. You know, that you can find much better road knives, but on the disposable side, there's a system and there's a repeat, but I started off with buckets like this, and they're not going to go very far for you, and that's what you'll get out of them. So getting these good buckets that are strong. This one here I'm going to set on the ground because I'm going to make 100 wires that are 16 inches long and straight become 200 fabric pins in less than an hour. And the real kicker is that this box has been as low as $13.99. And you will not find an option on Amazon, or definitely rarely locally, that you're going to get what you need in the fabric staple department. 200 staples for $14, $15, less than $20 every time. This price has fluctuated with, I assume, metal pricing, but always about the same. And these are about the width of a toothpick, and still very strong. And also, after you bend them, they have this little bit of spring-loaded factor to them, rather than this, well, I guess these do a little bit, but these square head ones not so much, and that is beneficial to them holding even further as they expand in the dirt. But here's the comparison. I blacked out the Amazon store's name not to rip on anybody. Thank God for them, for even making them and putting them on the web. But hey, you want to start a business, you just bend them yourself and you put them on the web. But all you DIY gardeners, this is the way to go. 16-inch fabric, 16-inch insulation supports. You know, they go in your crawl space on 16-inch header beams, and they're just in there and pushing against the beams, holding that insulation up against your crawl space floor is what they're intended for. But I paid $16.73 for these heavy-duty 100 ones, and now they're at $15.99. But all these options that this web store gives you, none of them are 200 for $15. And maybe there's a solution out there in the shopping world, but you don't really need that. This is the best way to go and the cheapest way to go. And I was just going to demonstrate my method. Wear safety glasses because they will pop off from time to time. I've done some different ways of putting a cup on the end of these. What I'll normally do is get a few of them, run them up against that, because that's gives you the marker for the halfway point. And in this case, since we've got this little bit of these vent covers out on the table, we'll just lay them there. Now you can use snips like this. This is about as small as you can get, and cut this gauge wire, the toothpick size wire. They make these a little larger that you can hold in your hand. They're a little bit tedious and a little hard on your hand if your things aren't sharp. Now watch me get poked in the eye. Now see, that flew 7 feet across the room. So maybe the cup should go on that end. But be mindful of that. Somebody could get hurt cutting these things. So you got to come up with your own way. I can't remember why I put this block of wood here. It had to do something with the previous way of doing it, but it's been a year more since I've cut any. So alternative cutting tool B is the heavy gauge 14-inch wire cutters. You can get these for $14 probably. I can't remember at the cheapo tool places. Again, running it up against there. And hey, that didn't fly anywhere. And it was a little more easy to push than squeezing them. But then, this is a glove job here. The ends of these are kind of sharp, and so here are my gloves on the table, and I'm going to put the camera away and move this stuff out of the way and proceed with making myself another 200. And I don't expect it to take me more than an hour to sit here and cut them all and bend them all. That's usually what I clock it at. I finally recalled how I had previously mounted this and what the block was for. at the back of the table I screw the pipe to the table, and the block I screw the strap across it, and it's my leverage point for being able to have one hand hold the wire, and the wire's in the bucket, and the bucket was screwed to the table and has just enough room so that the piece that flies off stays in the bucket, one piece stays in my hand, and that way there aren't projectiles flying around. And one bonus I'll leave you with, this is my method. Now, in the removal of plugs out of your trays department, they obviously sell plug poppers, which are matching to the holes in the bottom, and so you push them down. I didn't know that when I started, and so I just spooned them out of there. And the most beneficial way to do that, also in your filled tub, is the pliers that you pull these out with and push them in with at times. Is take one of your wires you made and make it a little more narrow. And so that's what I've done here. And these small wires I use for getting plugs out of trays. And there's a slight art to it without ruining your tray. But this is how I get them out, and it's done rather fast. And even if you're using a plug popper, you still have to touch the plug. You still have to fight them sometimes with plug poppers. I've helped some other farms, and it's a time waster. I've done this much of the tray sometimes before I'm on a tailgate working with a plug popper trying to get them out, and they're still not all the way out. And you're also messing with the holes in the bottom. Here, if you'll be mindful about how you're pulling it out, you won't destroy your plugs. And if these were live plants, I've never seen that be a factor that disturbs the plant. Just a little bonus to using these. So I'll squeeze a few. I have a spot in the greenhouse where I just keep all these hanging, because this is something I lose when I make them this small. Inevitably I leave them in trays like that, and I walk back to the greenhouse holding the tray like that, and sometimes they fall out. I usually give them an extra squeeze after I bend them. And that puts them about, that would be too wide if you didn't grip them. So it is kind of important to have some thick gloves, because the points at the end are pretty sharp from just being sheared, and that's favorable to you when you're getting started with these new ones. They really penetrate fabrics well. So that's been making fabric staples, DIY. 16-inch insulation support wires, a box of 100 straight wires for less than $15. Cut them in half yourself, set up a spot, and you'll have 200 fabric staples, the right size fabric staples. You gotta make them yourself. It's the only way to get going and keep going. So hopefully I can help people get started and stay going with market gardening. Thanks. So now you see how it's done. Get back to work. Thanks for watching.